Alright, welcome back to another episode. I'm Phil, and this thing here in front of me is a 49 panhead chopper. Now, I have Darcy's Captain America in the background. You're probably wondering what the fuck is that. It is in my opening shot at the moment, but I will be working on this in the future. I just have to move it at the moment. My shop is absolutely fucking full, and this is the only spot I've got for it. But in this episode, we're going to be focusing on this 49 panhead. Now, your 1948 and your 1949 are the most sought after panheads. Your 240s year panhead choppers are the most sought after. So this is one of them, and this thing is fucking sweet. So it's got all the right stuff you want on it. This is an aftermarket front end, but it's still sick. This is like, it almost looks like a 2-under front end. It looks like a 2-under Springer front end. It's got the Springer drum front brake, which you don't often see. They are hard as fuck to find. And even if you were to buy an aftermarket one from V-Twin in Australia, it costs us so fucking much to import that stuff, so we don't even bother. We have to try and buy the thing here. So to have one of them in Australia is fucking sick. So front to back, we have obviously a 21 front wheel with a Springer drum brake, super sick, sprung front end, looks like a 2-under. Unfortunately, this is a big thing, like in the south of Australia. Everyone seems to run all these small fucking wassel tanks, and this is like a Gold Coast look that I call it. I'm not a fan of this. If you ride with someone with a tank like this, you're stopping every fucking 80 kilometers to get fuel. It's a fucking pain in the ass. This is only for going to the pub to have a schooner with your mates down the road. That's all these tanks are good for. But basically, tiny little tank has, this has a drum brake on it for some reason, which is fucking weird. Obviously, this should have this has a juice drum on it, which is weird. Obviously, this should have a mechanical drum. It's got the crossover tube through there, so not sure why it's got the juice on it, but maybe it's a preference thing. Some people reckon they work better. I personally reckon a mechanical works better. You can leave the thing for fucking 6 months, 6 years, 60 years, whatever. You can come along. Mechanical is still going to work, where a juice drum, juice being your brake fluid, eats up everything when it doesn't work and it goes gross. And you got to repair them. They're fucking terrible sometimes. But anyway, we have a magneto on this thing, which I'm going to fucking throw in the bin. You know how much I hate magnetos. So I've got a generator shovel dizzy going to go on this thing. The reason I use a generator shovel dizzy and not a panhead dizzy is because a generator shovel dizzy has mechanical advance in it, where a panhead distributor does not. So you want the thing to go a bit faster. You want it to be nice and retard without, being that cool guy that has to mechanically, manually move his timer to retard it, to start it, and then do the cool guy push over. That's just locked on full advance. You get way better, rideability. It's faster, everything if you've got a mechanical advance. So that's why I try and pick up every single generator shovel dizzy I see around, because you can chuck them in a panhead and they work super, super well. And the other cool thing about them is you can run the panhead distributor cap with the clip, make it look original, and it still fucking all looks original. It works way better. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this episode. But carrying on here, we've got, this is the correct gearbox. This is a 40s panhead gearbox as well. So that's fucking super sick. And, some upsweeps, badass. We got your rigid oil bags, sweet as. We've got is this an 18 or a 19? 18 rear with the mechanical drum, obviously. 18s look fucking sick. The only problem that I don't like with them is that when you run an 18, they only got this tiny little profile tyre. You've only got like this much tyre. And because this is a rigid bike, your tyre is basically the only suspension you got. So you try and run these things on like 10 or 15 PSI of pressure, just so you've got a bit of bounce or give when you hit a bump. So when you run a 16, you can run a taller profile tyre, and that makes up your rolling diameter. And the more tyre you've got, the more suspension you've got. So I always like to run a 16 on my bike. They're also cheaper. Run a 16 on my bike, because then you've got heaps of suspension. You can let the thing down all the way to 10 or something if you're on a fucked road and still ride and rip the thing, and it's heaps comfier. So this bike has all the cool shit on it. It's got heaps of cast stuff, which is really cool. It's just a pity of the bloke who makes it. But everything else on this bike is super cool. It has like the hard oil lines, has a Super E, which I'm not stoked on, but they do work when they're set up. It's got the tin primary, it's got the lead pedal, it's got the floorboards, everything you really want on a chopper. I'm a big advocate for floorboards on a chopper because when you do long rides on it, a lot of people don't, but when you do long rides on it, your feet get sick of sitting on pegs. So having them on floorboards, you can move them around, they just sit there, you don't have to fucking worry about too much. So basically, the guy who owns this is a brother of a buddy, and he just bought this thing from down in Sydney, and he's a bit green. I don't think he's had too much to do with these stupid old things before, and as you know, as everyone knows, I fucking hate magnetos. So I said to him, you want to make this thing easier to start, better to ride, all that jazz, get rid of the fucking magneto and put points back on it. So that's what I'm doing. The other thing I've got to sort out is some brake lines. I'm not sure what's going on with the damn brake lines for this thing. So I need to sort out the brake lines. And because I'm getting rid of a Maggie, which has an earth kill, so when you earth your magneto switch, it kills the bike. So because we're getting rid of that, I've got to change the wiring because I need it. When I'm putting a dizzy on this thing, obviously we're going to put a coil in it. So I need to be able to kill power to the coil and power the coil to make the dizzy work. Obviously I've got to put a coil on this. I'm going to put it over on this side in the stock location. I'm going to run like a traditional early style coil, which is super sick. And then obviously the wiring, like I said, it's got some wiring fucking frayed up here and shit. And basically he said he just wanted to get me to have a bit of a ride on this thing, get a bit of a rip and just make it rideable really. Easy to start for him, rideable and ready to go. Check over anything that needs to be checked over. I'll have a look at some engine oil, some gearbox oil, all that shit. Just make sure it's not going to hurt itself if I go for a ride on this thing. So obviously the other thing is this fucking enormous cable. I think he was saying this thing had really high apes on it or something when he got it, and that's why the cable's so long. So the other thing I'm going to do is shorten that cable. I'm going to buy a shorter one, and that is pretty well what I have to do on this thing. So I might as well get this thing out of the way, get it up on the lift, and tackle this magneto first. Get rid of that thing, get the new dizzy in there, set all that timing up, and then probably the brake lines, wiring, and then take this thing for a rip. So let's fucking get into it. As cool as these two under front ends look, they ride fucking terribly. So a thing that like FLH used to do back in the day, like my 68 FLH is like it. The things had so much shit on them, they were so heavy, right, that when you were riding it, you had so much weight on the front wheel, and when you would come off the accelerator and it'd unweight the rear, the front would get a fucking wobble up. So these things do the same thing, because there's so much weight on the front wheel, they bounce and fucking wobble and really carry on. So your big over front ends really help control all that bounce and wobble and put a lot more weight on your rear tire. And that's why they're so good on the highway, because you lean back, you've got a big front end, all your weight's on the rear wheel, the front just wants to track true, it just goes dead straight. So that's the idea of a, like a long front end versus a short front end like this one. I absolutely rather a long front end, but I understand that sometimes doesn't really suit the bike. So a nice old pan head like this, I think it deserves a nice short front end like this, but I do not rate these stupid little tanks. They are terrible for doing any sort of riding. So my pan head's going to see some 3.5 gal pan tanks or some gen shop tanks or something to start with. So that is my whinge for this morning. But anyway, like I said, this bike's got all the cool shit on it. It's got Mitch Bailey paint and stuff, so it's fucking cool bike. But like original Bates headlight, just little shit like that has the bits. So you can probably tell that I already have the early style coil bolted on here. I bought this from Lowbrow and then realised that a company in Australia, Laneway Supply, actually sell them. So Laneway Supply, I'm pretty sure they bought the Meatballs company. So the Meatballs company, they make these front ends in Australia. They call them Meatball for some reason. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Laneway Supply sell them now, or maybe they just have a contract to sell them. I don't fucking know. But basically, You can get front ends from them in Australia, you can get coils and stuff from them in Australia. They're basically the same price as the shit you get out of the States. You can just get it way faster. So, pretty well, what we're going to get started with this thing, take the spark plugs out for one. We're going to turn this thing over, and I want to set up my Dizzy. Obviously, I want to set it up on the easy way, like, because it's got a mechanical advance. I'm going to set it up when the weights are closed right on top dead center so that it starts really easy. So we'll pull the plugs out, we'll turn this thing over to top dead center, we'll find top dead center with a screwdriver in the holes, remember? And then we will pull this Maggie out and then stab the points ignition in there. So come around this side, we'll check it out. Like I said, a quick 30 seconds way to find your top dead center or even your advance mark. So I've just got the spark plugs out of the cylinders. I have the timing plug out, and all we're going to do, it's easy with a kicker motor, we're just going to put our thumb over the front cylinder, right, and move this over until we get pressure on our thumb, right? You hear that? So I got pressure on my thumb. That means we are on compression stroke and we are on the way up. So now we want to start looking in our little hole here. So depending on what motor you've got, it's sort of dependent on what hole you're looking for. But the easy way, if you're not sure what hole, is just to get your screwdriver here. And all we're going to do, we're just going to knock this over until we see something in the hole. Doesn't matter what, just something. Alright, so I've got a line coming into the hole now. So on some motors the line means top dead center, on some motors the line means advance mark. So all I do, I put that screwdriver in there till it hits the top of the piston. I put my thumb there as a gauge, and that is where the spark plug hole is. So all I do with that, stick it in the rear hole, and you see how the rear cylinder is further up than the front cylinder. That means we're on advance mark. So when we're on advance mark, it means the front cylinder is 35 degrees before top dead center, so it's below top dead center, and our rear cylinder is at top dead center. So we want to keep going. So the line in this motor is advance mark. So all we do, if you want to make sure the motor's still going up, put your screwdriver in there and keep knocking it. See how the screwdriver's still going up? Means we're going in the right direction. So we keep going over. So now I have a hole, just a little point in my timing hole here. So you're going to do the same thing again, all the way up. See how much closer the piston is to the top, and I can't touch it on the rear. So that tells us the front cylinder is at top dead center. So now that we got that, let's go pull this magneto out. Right, so I took off the magneto hold down strap. That's that guy, just has one bolt. Usually you have to take the stupid cap off in order to get the magneto out. And usually they're only running a few screws because you can't get the rear ones in because it's fucking stupid, and I don't get it why you would run a magneto. In between all this whinging about how shit magnetos are, this guy wants to sell it. If you're in Australia, it's not much point fucking shipping this thing back to the States. If you're in Australia and want to buy this thing, I think they're about $1,000 USD just for the magneto or something. So if you want to shoot me an offer, please do. And now you can't even get the lid off because of the push rod. But if you like this bit of fucking torture, please let me know if you want to buy this thing, hit me up. But if you're a sane person like me and know better, you won't buy it. But anyway, the thing is brand new in there. This is a fucking brand new magneto, and I don't know why you'd spend so much money on it, but let's see if it fucking comes out. Sometimes you gotta take the whole top off it, which is absolutely dog shit, which is what looks like has to happen here. Fuck, they are so shit. I don't know why you would fucking run one of these. So now I'm gonna take the whole base off because you can't get it off in the bike here. And it looks like they're only running 2 out of the 4 bolts because, once again, you can't fucking get to it. This is the absolute fucking pits. If you want to buy this thing, do not ask me to fucking install it for you. So stupid. So like I said, only 2 out of the 4 bolts has been run here, and now it's leaking oil out of the other 2 bolts. So if you want this headache on your bike, fucking let me know. I definitely don't want to deal with it anymore. Like, the magneto's been fucking ground there to fit and all sorts of shit. It's fucking stupid. Oh, I can't even fucking get to the thing. Oh, this is fucking so... Did I just round it? Oh, cunt. Oh, why are they so tight? Not to mention, there's only 2 out of the 4 bolts in the base, and the O-ring is not on the shaft. So this thing definitely looks like it's been leaking. There's oil everywhere. What a fucking pain in the ass. Imagine trying to do this on the side of the road when your fucking bike is boiling hot. You'd rather just fucking step out into fucking traffic. I would anyway. Fuck my life. Seems like a great idea. Let's put a magneto on it. That'd be so cool.
A few moments later.
Oh, look at this stupid thing. Look at the oil coming up the shaft. Fucking thing. What a shitbox. Brand spanker though, and look, someone's just ground that fucking thing completely off. Oh, why would you do that? Fuck's sake. I don't fucking get it. I really don't get it. Fucking shitty. Alright, let me clean all this crap up and recoup. Alright, so I have my Gen shovel distributor here. Like I was saying, this has mechanical advance in it, so when it spins, counterweights open up, which advance the timing. So the idea of mechanical advance is when your engine is down and idle, the weights are closed so that it is idling with a retarded timing, and then when you start to wind through the revs, the centrifugal force of the rotor spinning opens the counterweights, which advances the timing. So it's the way that a motor most likes to run. So it likes to have that advance in there so that when it winds in, it winds into advance, and then when you come back to an idle, the timing is retarded. So basically, it doesn't really matter where this thing is. We just want it so that this hole here, that's for the wire to come out. We want it back here somewhere. So all we do, we jam that in there, and we want the timer to be, we want the small lobe on our cam lobe to be just before our follower, so that when we time it, we just turn it around till it's just, the light just comes on, and that's where it wants to be. So I'm just going to jam this in here. It will turn when we get in the spot we want, so that's probably not the right spot there. We just got to fiddle around with this until we get it to where we want it to be. So somewhere there is where she will be, and that is pretty well home. We still have to time this thing, but that is pretty well where it wants to sit. You can see that I can turn this and this stays in the same spot. So we know that it is meshed with our timing gear. So I'm going to run a wire from here to our coil, and then I might fiddle around with a bit of wiring so we have some power at our coil, and then we can go through and time this thing. Alright, so it's sort of midway, well, it's actually the afternoon of the next day. I sort of got a bit carried away on this thing because it was just sort of one thing after the next. I put the battery on charge for this thing last night and it didn't charge, so I had to go through and find a new battery for this thing. So A few issues with that. This battery sort of sits up like that, so the terminals are on the side, so it's not sitting flat. So the annoying bit about that is I couldn't use just a normal acid-filled battery because they have to sit flat. So I had to go and find a gel or a dry cell battery. So bit of digging around, I found the same size battery that was a dry cell, and it goes on its side now. So the other thing, I got rid of the house wiring, so I got rid of that, the house wiring. And then off the key, I had to run a wire to our coil. So that's that wire there. Luckily on the loom, they had space for a coil here. They just didn't run the wires. So they already had this guy. So I just had to put a fuse in there, run a wire over here, and then that's the power. So the trigger side, that's the trigger there. It goes through down here, through there, and up the back here into our distributor. So we have our trigger. The other thing I went and did, I went and put an oil pressure light on this thing. So when I turn the key on, this is our oil pressure light on our OG Bates headlight there. So that flashes when you don't have oil pressure. So that is fucking mad. If you're singing down the highway and this thing doesn't have oil pressure, you'll be fucking boop. You'll know because it'll start fucking beeping at you. So that's a cool little feature I like to put on these bikes. Just a foolproof way to not run these things out of oil. The other thing, I did an oil change on this thing. I took the oil out of the gearbox and it was absolutely fucking filthy. It was like black and full of steel. So that is great. I don't think that's been changed in the recent times. Also, it didn't have much oil in it. So that's also another issue. And the oil bag too. I had a look in there and there was fucking a tiny bit of oil in there. When it sat over there, it sat there for, I don't know, a few weeks while I ordered parts, and it didn't drop much oil. And you know the old saying, if it doesn't drop the oil, it means it doesn't have it. And that's exactly what happened here. Didn't have oil. So I even had a look in the oil bag, right? And there was no oil in there. So I just figured that all the oil would be in the sump. It's just wet sumped itself. So I took off the little sump drain that's on these generator motors, and no oil came out of the sump either. So this thing had no oil in it for some reason. So I've gone through, put some nice 50 weight oil in it. So brand new oil in the engine, brand new oil in the gearbox, all new wiring here. Not all new, but new wiring in here. I fixed that up a little bit. New coil, leads. What else have I done here? Oh, I fixed up the brakes too. For some reason the brakes weren't on this thing. So I have rigged up the brakes. It has a juice drum once again for some reason. So he gave me a line. I had to make that work. I've just got the brake light switch sitting there. So basically everything is done on this thing now. I went through and set the timing. That's the next thing I was going to do after I left you last. You guys all know how to set the timing. Just remember that your little follower has to be before the cam when you set this. So this cam spins clockwise. So you want the follower to be before the cam lobe that you're trying to set it, and then pull it into timing. And then when your light comes on, lock her down. I always like to put a little mark in here just out of the way, so if you're ever chasing a little bit more timing, or maybe you want to take some timing out, you've got a datum point that you know you can go back to. So it's always handy to put that on there. So basically this thing is pretty well all ready to start up now. I've done everything I really want to. Now it's just a deal of pretty well go through, make sure this thing runs, make sure my oil pressure light thing works, make sure that goes out. This isn't the usual oil pressure light that I get. Usually you can get the nice original looking ones that, I don't know, they look fucking real funky and old, but I couldn't find one. But this oil light comes on at 3 PSI. Anything lower than 3 PSI, that oil light comes on. Now, pans and shovels and stuff are renowned for having next to no oil pressure at idle. So this light may come on at idle is the only issue. So I'm just gonna have to get this thing hot, take it for a bit of a run and see what happens. So let me set this camera up. I think we might go through and see if we can start this thing. So the other thing I'm a little bit skeptical on this, was the battery dead because the generator wasn't working? That's what I'm wondering. Is it dead because the generator wasn't working and that's why they had a magneto on it, because it didn't need the generator to generate power to charge the battery to power it? Or was it dead because this thing's been sitting for ages? But I'm sort of leaning towards it's been sitting for ages because it's got no fucking oil in it, right? All the oil's leaked out. So I'm just going to start this thing up. I have my humble little test light over here, so I'm going to jam it on there and look for some power, I'm hoping. Hopefully it's charging somewhat. And then take this thing for a bit of a test ride. Fingers crossed it's charging, because those fucking generators are not cheap. Like, you can buy a cheap generator, yes, you can buy like a $500 Daytona generator, but you're probably just going to have issues with it. You might as well spend the money, get a Cycle Electrics generator with a regulator. It's one wire to the fucking battery and it's done. It's set and forget. Those things last for fucking ever. But the only problem with them, they're like fucking $1,200 in Australia. So some things like that you just got to spend the money on. You don't want to be stuck on the side of the road because you cheaped out on a fucking generator, right? So anyway, let's fucking see what this thing does. This has a Super E on it, so I hate these carburetors, but they just fucking chug fuel. So it's got an accelerator pump, so I'd give it a few pumps before I prime kick it, and then we will see what it does. I want to double check that I've tightened my spark plugs properly. If you have your spark plugs not tight in one of these, because it's only a 1/2 inch of thread, you will blow that spark plug out of there quick smart. You put the thing into fucking orbit. So just sometimes it pays to double check. I was right, it was fine, but you know, I did that yesterday after a few beers. Sometimes it's good to just double check this stuff. So let's test this coil. I haven't tested this fucking coil yet. I had some issues with this early style coil. It just has like a little pin in the bottom of where you push your lead in, and the pin's supposed to push into the core of your lead so that it gets sparked. But obviously this is a Chinese coil and the pin was a little bit pushed over. So when you pushed the lead into the socket, it wouldn't stab the lead in the center. It wouldn't stab the lead into the wire that goes to your spark plug. So it wouldn't have had spark. So I had to get in there and fuck around with a little screwdriver to bend them straight again. And fingers crossed the thing actually works. So let's have a bit of a look here. Sounds like it's fucking working. So if you're fucking new to this channel, you always want to do prime kicks with these old things. 2 prime kicks will prime the cylinders full of fuel so that when you put the ignition on, you're primed and ready to go. Alright, 2 prime kicks, ignition on. I haven't heard a fucking peep out of this thing. I can't see the accelerator pumping work much. Hopefully it's got fuel in it. It doesn't fucking sound like it. There we go, I just had to pump some fuel on the bitch. So I'm going to go through and prime it again. So let's just do no more fuel, eh? Alright. Ignition on. Bit of a fire out the carb there. Might have the timing a little bit dicked on this. how good's that? So you can sort of tell by how much smoke is coming off this exhaust that this thing hasn't run in ages. So you can see I was a little bit off with my timing. See, I had to fucking bump the revs right up so that it would stay running, and then I just fiddled around with the timing. And basically what happens when you do that, you just bump the revs up until it just runs, and then you undo your timing and you just creep your timing. And if the revs are going up, it means it's liking it, so you keep going that direction. But if the revs start going down, it doesn't like it. So all I did was I just kept going and the revs kept coming up, so I kept going in a retard. Was it retarded? No, I kept advancing it and it liked it more. So it seemed pretty happy there. It was nice and choppy on the throttle, so that seems pretty fucking sweet. So my oil pressure light was working, so I had it sort of idling there. It is cold, so it had it idling and it wasn't coming on, so that was alright. But when it gets hot, it might do a bit of a flicker, so we'll keep an eye on that. But pretty good for a first start, really. It was charging and everything as well, so that's fucking sweet. That saved him a bit of money, so it sounds pretty fucking healthy, to be honest. So it's really only one thing for it. I'm going to put the fucking seat back on this thing and take it for a bit of a rip and see what it's like. Righto, so I ended up having a few issues getting that bike going. I probably should have noticed something right from the start when I had just set the timing, and then when I started it, it was super retarded. So you saw just then when I started it, it was super retarded, so I had to turn a heap of timing into it. Probably should have had some alarm bells ringing then, but I went through and I fucking struggled with that bike. Every time I took it for a ride, at the start I thought it was a carburetor issue. Every time I went for a ride and it'd idle, it'd start, everything would be perfect. But when you take it for a ride, it would go through the revs, and then when you start building revs, it would break up. It would start breaking up and stuttering. So I was sort of leaning towards a carburetor issue. I thought maybe one of the edge ports or, one of the mixture screws or something was going wrong, and it had a bit of a stumble. So I went through, and usually when you have a stumble or a cough going through the revs, sort of quarter to 3/4 throttle, usually think it's an intermediate or something. So all I went through, just did an intermediate jet on it, went one up. Usually one up's the way to go on those. They like more fuel. They will cough at you if they don't like the fuel. So anyway, did a heap of jet changes. Everything I did didn't change a fucking thing. I went richer, I went leaner, I went this, I went that. Nothing changed. Just still had the same stutter through the revs. I couldn't fucking work it out. It was real flat. So I sort of dug into it a bit further. I said, there's probably something wrong with the fucking distributor. Maybe if I lock it out at full advance like a normal panhead is, I'll be able to work out what it's fucking doing, and then I can cancel the distributor doing something silly out. Anyway, when I was looking at it, I have said distributor here, when I was looking at it, I noticed something, and I have always been told about this. I've been told about it 100 times. A heap of old buddies have said it was a big thing back in the day, and I've never seen it before. So basically what was happening is I had said distributor here. I've had this sitting in my toolbox for fucking ages. I bought it at a swap meet, and I figured fucking one day I'm going to have a generator motor and I'm going to want to put that on it. These are pretty hard to come by sometimes. Anyway, I picked it up and I put it in said bike, and it ran like shit and I couldn't work it out. But I remembered a little story a buddy told me where a heap of aftermarket distributors came out, and with the distributor where you can change said advance weights, you can put a cone shovel advance weights in a generator motor distributor. Now the problem with that is, because of the way the timing works, on a cone shovel, your timing is anti-clockwise. So your points cam spins anti-clockwise, and then on a generator motor, your points cam spins clockwise. Now you might not think anything of it, but they are completely different. Because they spin opposite directions, it means when the timing advances on a cone shovel, if you were to put that in a generator shovel, the timing was advancing and now it's retarding. So you put those advance weights from a cone shovel in a generator shovel, when you go through the revs, instead of advancing the timing, it retards the timing. And that's what was happening with the bike. When I was revving, it was taking timing out of it instead of putting it back in, and that's why it had said stutter. So I just thought that was a good little trick to tell you guys. If you guys are at a swap meet or something and you pick up a advanced distributor like this, I just wanted to show you a couple little telltale signs that'll tell you if it's going to be right or if it is one of these fucking weird distributors that came out that wasn't right. They use cone shovel stuff in a generator motor. So come in and I'll show you a few little telltales. So I have all my panhead stuff here that I'm putting together. So you'll see that in an upcoming episode. My whole bottom end of the panhead will be together. But let's just have a fucking look at this thing. So wrong advanced unit. So basically what's going on here, this looks like a normal old distributor, right? Doesn't look like anything special. Like I just picked it out of my toolbox. I've had this thing for years, didn't even think about it. Now, a few little telltales that will be able to tell you whether you pick one up and it's not going to be the correct one. Firstly, you see how this has a bolt on the top, just like a cone shovel does. So a cone shovel has a bolt through your timing gear. So like I said, this all looks the same, does all the same shit, nothing different. So if we pull this thing apart, I'll show you a few little differences where maybe you're at a swap meet and you pick one up and then you don't have the same issue that I just had. So basically what we do, just pull this off, pull the whole top off, right? So you see how it's got this bolt in the middle. This is literally how a cone shovel works. So this whole advanced unit will unbolt and you can have it as a standalone unit, right? So basically a distributor that has this on it, you will tell that this thing spins clockwise, right? So it spins clockwise. When the weights advance, have a look which direction my cam lobe goes. So my cam lobe spins anti-clockwise. So that is retarding the timing when we are revving it. So if you're at a swap meet and you can't work it out, basically what you want is when you advance the weights, you want your cam lobe to move clockwise as well. So your engine moves this direction like that, clockwise. You want these to open and the points cam moves clockwise. See how it moves anti-clockwise, retarding timing as it revs. So basically, rule of thumb, if you see one that has this bolt on the top, just test that, make sure it moves clockwise, not anti-clockwise like this one. Secondly, you can buy most of these, the most common ones have a circlip in the top. So they don't have this bolt on, generic advanced unit. You can just have one with a circlip on the top and these advanced weights sit on a plate on the bottom that is one piece. They are the most common and that you won't have any issues with those. So if you pick up one with a bolt on top like this, just double check it because this is a trick for young players. This will get you caught up. If I hadn't heard about this or known about it, this would have probably tripped someone up for a week or two. They would have had no idea what was going on. So that's a good little trick. So like I said, I had a bit of trouble with Corey's bike, getting it together, getting it running and riding, so I didn't film too much, but that was basically the gist of it. Once I worked that out and I put a new distributor in it, luckily I had another one, I had a genuine Gen Shovel one. Once I put that in, it was fucking gravy. The thing just worked. I went back to the same carburetor jets, everything, and it worked a treat. So that's pretty well it for this episode. I didn't get in any riding content. I want to get a new camera for riding content. Those Insta360s look pretty sick. If anyone has, any experience with those cameras, they look pretty fucking sweet. I want something like that so that I can clip it to the bike, ride around, and you can spin around and have a look at all the different shit. So basically that is it for this episode. Probably see behind me, I have all my panhead stuff here. So this is my personal panhead project that I'm putting together. I literally just made a little tool to spin my heads in the lathe so I could machine the combustion chamber. So that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. I've got that coming out in the next couple of weeks, probably next week to be honest. But as always guys, if you've enjoyed the episode, or maybe you want to contribute, there is a link down in the description below. You can either buy one of these shirts or you can just simply buy me a beer. A lot of people in different countries that don't want to pay for shipping, or maybe you're in America, I don't ship there at the moment, but because of Trumpy's tariffs, but that may change in the future. So just keep an eye out in the link below. I will be changing that in the future when Trumpy gets rid of, or maybe these tariffs get a little bit cheaper. But anyway, in the meantime, a lot of people have bought me a beer. So I've got a little buy me a beer button here, you know, keeping my fridge with beer in it so all my buddies can come around and knock it all off is basically all I do. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you want to contribute, down in the description below. But if not, just hit the subscribe button. Helps me out as well. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.